Namaste, my beautiful friends. I'm Jill Loftus of Nuit Astrology. Welcome to your planetary energy forecast for the week of July the 7th, 2025. Now, this is a really important week. It's probably not the trickiest week for sure. I think mid-month will be a little bit more stressful, and early to mid-August a little bit even more so. But it is a week of consequence. It is a week of powerful movements of planets. Two of the slower moving planets, both Uranus and Saturn, will be making big changes this week. And we actually begin the week, depending on where you are in your time zone, it could be either on the 6th or the 7th, Uranus will move into Gemini for the first time in about 84 years. So this is pretty new for anybody who's alive here. And it is a movement that tends to produce shocking events that that can seemingly come out of the blue. It is the planet that is considered to be the higher octave of Mercury, the messenger. And so it has a lot to do with technology and moving into the sign that Mercury loves to be in, which is Gemini. So revolutions occurring in how we communicate and how we travel short distances. Revolutions and changes within societies. This dualistic nature of Gemini is going to introduce two-sidedness to things, and sometimes people being two-faced. So it's interesting to note that the United States actually has Uranus in Gemini. Now it's at 8 degrees in the United States chart, but I think it'll be interesting to see the symbols that come forth with this shift of Uranus into Gemini. Now keep in mind, it's only going to get to 1 degree. By November, it will retrograde back into the sign of Taurus, finish up its Tauran lessons, and commit at the end of April of 2026 to the sign of Gemini for about 7 years. So we're really going to monitor this. It could absolutely bring shocking events with communication, with money, with finance, because it's moving out of that 29th degree of Taurus and into Gemini. It could definitely bring revolutions regarding groups of people, because the impetus of Uranus is to shatter expectations and limitations and break down walls, so to speak. So we're going to really pay attention to that. I would also note that on the same day, Venus in the sign of Cancer is sending some Venus in the sign of Gemini. Venus in Gemini is going to send some beautiful energy to Pluto. Now, she just moved into Gemini as we finished up last week. And so this is a new vibe, right? We're feeling this new vibe. And, you know, Venus is still traveling pretty closely with Uranus, right? They're not that far away from each other, just a couple degrees. So there's something really positive there about the Plutonian impulse for change, for breaking things down, for rebuilding. I've mentioned this before, but the outer planets are creating this minor grand trine in the sky, which, you know, we tend to think of this as being a harmonious aspect, but these are planets that bring massive change. And so it is not always easeful, or at least things that occur are not necessarily what we would consider to be positive in their nature, but the outcome can be. The change that they bring can be. And so we're going to really be keeping an eye on things on a global scale. Now with Venus in a trine to Pluto, we're also going to allow ourselves to gather information, right? Venus in Gemini, and then be able to look forward, look to the future. That's Pluto in Aquarius. So we're going to be a little bit more nimble, a little bit more open to possibility, a little bit more what could happen. Anything could happen, right? Uranus and Gemini. Okay, so then as we move forward, we've also got several significant moon voids this week. And the first one occurs on Monday. It's at 5:29 p.m. Eastern, and then it's void all evening, all day on the 8th, and into the 9th at 4:55 a.m. Eastern. Please feel free to check my website. I have a blog that indicates for several time zones all of the moon voids. There are a significant number in July, not quite as many, but quite a few in August as well. So keep that in mind. So then we have our full moon for the month, and that occurs on the 10th at 4:37 p.m. Eastern. This is at 18 degrees of the sign of Capricorn, and so it is sending some really nice connections over to the South Node in Virgo. Now, another thing to take note of with this full moon is that the moon voids immediately after it becomes full. So if you are wanting to ritualize letting go of something, releasing something in the Capricorn area of life, you would want to wait until the next day. The moon comes out of void on the 11th at 1:21 p.m. Again, adjust that for your time zone. But I would suggest that as you enter into that full moon energy, you become aware of what Capricornian things you are ready to feel the sense of completion with. It could be, you're getting ready to let go of following old rules or traditions that no longer work for you. It could be that you've been really focused on acquisition of money and objects and some of those more Capricornian material things, and now you're ready to kind of transcend that. I would have a general idea of what you want to let go of, and then I would give that moon void period, that basically almost 24 hours of moon void, to kind of explore and feel and see what happens. And then if you want to ritualize anything, go ahead and do it on the 11th after the moon comes out of void. We also have another significant moon void starting on the 12th at 3:45 p.m. Eastern until the 13th at 7:45 p.m. Eastern. So basically all day on the 13th, which is kind of interesting because that is also when we have Saturn pausing in the sky and beginning its retrograde motion in Aries. Now, this is the first retrograde that Saturn will experience in Aries, the first time in 30 years, right? So we're going to really observe that, and it occurs on the 13th at 12:07 a.m. And so it could be happening for you on the 12th, but it's going to happen when the moon is void. So we are going to observe the symbols, the symbolic events that relate to rules, authority figures, structures, all of the Saturnian types of things. But understand that there's a little bit of fluidity here because of the moon void. And so, yes, we're going to pay attention to what's happening, but understand that if it kind of sets off something, as Saturn can, it might not go exactly the way it appears on the surface at that initial movement. So we're definitely going to watch all day on the 13th. I would say into the 14th even, because Saturn sometimes has a delay. There's a slowness sometimes to Saturn. So we might not really get the message of what that retrograde is about until we get to the 14th. Now keep in mind, Saturn is walking lockstep with Neptune. So this is an obscuring energy. This is a little bit of, it's like you put your glasses on and you're trying to see, but it's a little blurry around the edges. So try not to fall into the shadow of Aries, which is being too strident, too immature, boldly moving forward without double checking. I really think that is one of the keys to this week. I would also say do stick around for the Celtic Cross reading. I did the Celtic Cross on the movement of Uranus into Gemini, and it definitely had some positive, I think, suggestions. And also do check out the Isis Lotus Tarot spread, which I posted yesterday. That video also has some really interesting, there was a lot of major arcana, and even though the two different ways of working with the energy seem very similar, they definitely had, they had some correlations, some things that were kind of similar. They still had very unique signatures as far as how the week is going to play out. Clearly a week of consequence. That is the way I am looking at it. So if you found this useful and helpful, please comment below. Stick around for the Celtic Cross. Hello, my friends. So, for the week of July the 7th, we're going to do this Celtic Cross on the movement of Uranus into Gemini. I mean, I'm really torn. I kind of want to do them on the full moon. I want to do it on the Venus trine to Pluto. I would love to do it on the stationary retrograde movement of Saturn. But I feel like we really need a little extra heads up on this movement of Uranus into Gemini. So, for the collective, a Celtic Cross, what is it that we really need to pay attention to during this movement of Uranus into Gemini? Now, keep in mind, it's going to be in there until like November. It's going to retrograde back into Taurus and then commit to being in Gemini for the next 7 years, next April, end of April. So, for the collective, yes, okay, awesome. First card is us, 3 of Cups. Ah, interesting, okay. So there's a sense of buoyancy here. We're maybe excited for that shift or change. We might be feeling a little bit more. You know, Uranus can feel very stuck with the energy of Taurus. And so this lighter, brighter Uranus and Gemini might feel really good for us. Now, what's crossing us is 2 of Wands. There's definitely a decision that will need to be made. And remember, it's moving into the sign of the Twins. And so there's definitely going to be kind of this one or the other, you know, or both kind of energy that we'll be dealing with for these next few years. Now, in the past, 7 of Wands, we've had to set some really good boundaries. You know, Uranus and Taurus has been shaking up the earth herself. It's been making changes to currencies, to money, to food and food supplies, to material resources. Uranus in Gemini, in Gemini, is going to be so much more nimble, right? So much more energy of air, right, versus earth. Future, the world. Well, lovely, lovely, lovely. You know, the world card really is the culmination. It's the final card in the tarot. So there's something very positive for the world, I would say, that we're looking at. And this also, I would say, indicates really pay attention to the world symbols, not just your own little backyard. Now, on your mind, what's on your mind? Well, making a safe, stable, secure, abundant future for your family. I know there's a lot of us that, you know, are concerned about our friends, our friendships, our neighbors, our children, our relatives, right? It's definitely on the mind. And subconsciously, we're trying to be balanced. So here's another dual symbol, right? We have got the 2 of Wands, now we have the 2 of Pentacles. Advice, 7 of Swords. Interesting, it's the theft card. So we have to be a little bit cognizant here of the potential of loss or trickery. There's something here that could be deceptive. So we have to be very cautious with the movement of this planet into this sign. I'm guessing this is, you know, there could be deception around news and communications like that, right? There could be, because Uranus is considered to be the higher octave of Mercury, right? Mercury, the trickster, Mercury, the messenger, right? And so, and it's moving into the sign of Mercury, Gemini, right? So something here, we must be a little bit alert here. I might 3-card that one. Outside influence, 7 of Pentacles. Yeah, well, a lot of us are pretty concerned about what's been going on in the financial markets and what's happening with the US dollar as well. So there's something here about understanding the patterns for the future and how that's going to impact things. What do we want to happen? 4 of Wands. Again, there's something here about finding safety, community, family. Outcome. King of Cups. Interesting. So there's something here that's going to mature us into being more emotionally attentive, emotionally adept, a little bit more intuitive, a little bit more sensitive, caring, you know, but also empowered. The King energy is empowered. And the Reader's fan suggests, hey, Wheel of Fortune. Yeah, you're not alive now just by mistake, okay? 5 Five of Swords. Do not get too caught up in one specific goal. Remember that Uranian energy almost has to surprise us. It has to be shocking. So don't try to control it. It's lightning. Six of Cups. Yeah, some issues from the past may resurface for sure. Nine of Cups. Try to maintain this positive attitude. Try to maintain this idea of abundance, manifesting abundance, having enough. All right, I'm going to 3-card that Seven of Swords, y'all. Interesting little spread, eh? What are you? Drop a comment below. What are you thinking this Uranus and Gemini transit will bring for you? Do you have planets in Gemini? Do you think that you are in some way imprisoned in that area of life where Gemini is? And if so, what's going to shake you loose? What's going to remove those obstacles for you? I mean, Uranus is the energy of the Eight of Wands. It's like, okay, all of a sudden, everything's different. So what is this advice card, this theft that we must be concerned about? All right, what to keep an eye on will be the first 3 cards, and what to do about it will be the second 3 cards. So what to watch out for and what actions to take. What to watch out for and what actions to take. What to look out for. 10 of Pentacles, keep an eye on your money. King of Pentacles, and being more empowered when it comes to finances. King of Swords, also really be straightforward, logical, rational. What you need to do, you need to understand Wheel of Fortune. So some of this stuff is happening to everyone. It involves everyone. 8 of Swords, and we need not to feed negative thought forms. The Moon, because there's a lot more going on. We'll need to be more intuitive in order to access the right things to choose in order to not experience loss or theft. So there's something here about really plugging in and being attuned. Allow yourself to receive information. Allow yourself to receive downloads. In the dream life, in the meditation, stay attuned. If something sticks out to you, follow through with it, okay? So, super interesting spread. I wish you a most marvelous week, my friends. Let me know what your symbols are as the week unfolds, and I'll see you next week.